Hi, everybody. My name is Austin Murray. I'm joined with my classmate, Spencer White. And today, for our presentation, we are going to be talking about contemporary issues in the field of musicology. Our missions, as we explored this topic, we had three main goals. Our first was to learn about and come to understand contemporary issues within musicology. Our second was to become able to explain and inform others about the issues talked about in our project. And our third was to contribute to a new generation of intellectually informed and responsible scholars.
So the project, when we were talking about what we wanted to do to carry out these goals and these interests of ours, we kind of talked about a lot of things. And as everyone knows, the parameters for this project are left pretty open. So we talked about we could write something, we could record something. We thought about doing a podcast, but we kind of put our heads together and we decided that what we wanted to do this semester was an interview with our Dean of Libraries here at CSU, Dr. Alan Karras. Um, so we knew of Dr. Karras because he does teach classes here and he works with the Honors College a lot. So we knew he was around and we knew he was, his work is relevant to this field, this topic, and Austin will talk about that in a second. But we also knew that by doing an interview for this project, it would be easier for the two of us. We knew we wanted to work together for the project. And so by doing an interview, it was easy for both of us to collaborate and to do the project together as a pair. So before we get into the actual process and what we talked about in the interview for this semester's project, Austin's going to tell you a little bit more about Dr. Karras himself.
Yeah, so as Spencer said, we did our interview with Dr. Karras, and to tell you a little bit about him, Dr. Alan Karras is an ethnomusicologist and Dean of Libraries at Columbus State University in Columbus, Georgia. He completed his studies at Clark University, Simmons College, the University of Connecticut, and the Open University in the United Kingdom. Dr. Karras focuses his research on issues of festivity, music, and identity in Tunisia. His chapter, Identity, Music, and Festivity in Southern Tunisia, appears in the Handbook of Musical Identities published by Oxford Press in 2017.
So once we knew what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, we had to kind of sort out the process of meeting the ends. What are we going to turn in and how are we going to get there? So in doing this, the first thing we kind of did was we sat down in music library and we talked about what are these contemporary issues that we want to learn about. We know we want to learn about issues in the field, but what are the actual issues that we want to learn about? So we kind of sat down and we talked about quite a few issues, but we kind of settled, we figured we follow the rule of three, as they say. And so we decided we were going to follow three main topics that we would focus on for this project, which are methodology, gender, and race. So all of the contemporary issues that we kind of researched and talked about with Dr. Karras in our interview were surrounding those three main issues. So the two of us kind of split up. These three we divided and conquered. So we both did research, we read books and articles, and we brainstormed it together and on our own. And then we kind of compiled a document of questions that we wanted to ask Dr. Karras. And then of course, at the end, really the easy part was just setting up an interview. And once we'd already done the research and, wrote down and learned about these topics, it was pretty easy. We just read these questions and we interviewed him and recorded it, which was kind of the sprinkles on top of the cake. So just to give our audience, our virtual audience today, just a little bit of a taste of the things that we talked about. As I said, we talked about methodology, issues surrounding gender, and issues surrounding race, but I wanted to just give everyone an opportunity to understand some of these topics that we were talking about a little bit more. So as an example, when we talked about methodology with Dr. Karras, we talked a lot about things like, how do we learn about music from the past, and how is it possible that our researchers of today can learn about music from so long ago? It was something that Austin and I were really interested in, especially as non-musicologists, and especially after talking about these kind of things in class this semester. We just had so many questions about how do we learn about music that's so long ago? What documents can we look at, and how can we ensure the validity of these type of things? So that was methodology So issues surrounding gender was Austin. Austin, if you want to say a few things about that.
Yeah, so with our issues surrounding gender, the things we researched, our main focus was thinking about the past and how gender was seen in the past and um, how this influenced people's perceptions of male composers versus female composers and about men versus women in general, and how research on this topic, in our research and in our questions, we talked a lot about the issue that um, compositions and works by male composers were much more prominent than by female or by other genders. And we wanted to find out why this was, and also how can we combat this for the future. And Dr. Karras had a lot to say that was really beneficial about how we can look at the past from a new perspective and really make sure we are looking at the past as a whole and making sure we're including everyone, not just one group of people. And so that ties into how we looked at race. And Spencer's going to talk a little bit about his questions in the race category.
Yeah, so we also looked at issues surrounding race. Something that's been really popular in the academy recently has been Philip Yule's article, The White Racial Frame of Music Theory, which talks about literally the Eurocentric nature um, of music theory, but it's also been talked about a lot in the academy and in surrounding fields. But we talked about that article with Dr. Karras, and we talked about the broader implications, and we talked about colonialism, modern colonialism, and we talked about the frame of a lot of things that we talk about and how we talk about them. There's a lot of interesting topics with that, and I think, if I remember correctly, that was the longest section that we talked during our interview, was questions about issues surrounding race. So we learned a lot in that category, as we did in all of these categories. And so I think both of us are really fortunate that we picked these three categories, and it was a good decision on our part, and we definitely learned a lot. So I want to just say briefly while we're here that I think it's important to talk about why it matters. So besides the fact that we had to do this project because we had to do something, we had to do a grade, I think it's important to take a step back and think about why does it matter that we did this specific project, and what are we actually gaining? So we just want to say that from the perspective of us two, we think that traditional academic training, especially in music and surrounding fields, is often rooted in colonialism and produces almost exclusively research and information on these same old dead white men. And so we want to learn about this, and we want to learn how to be proactive about how to move forward and kind of change this. And so by learning about these issues, we think that we're making a great first step in doing that. And so as young scholars, we think that we're almost fulfilling a sense of responsibility that we feel to do this kind of work. And so we're glad that we had the ability to, and that we had the open-ended nature of the project to allow us to pursue this, because we both believe pretty wholeheartedly in the work, and we're glad that we had the opportunity to learn about something that's pretty important to both of us.
Yeah, and as Spencer said, we both really we felt that our interview with Dr. Karras was very beneficial, and the research we did as well. And so we provided this YouTube link here, and we wanted to just take a second to let you guys know that we went ahead and posted the entire interview that we had with Dr. Karras on YouTube. So if you're looking to learn more about his answers and what he had to say about our questions, I think it'd really be worth your time. It was worth ours, and we really enjoyed our time with him. And I think it'd be really beneficial if you wanted to watch more and hear what he had to say. Here's the link right here. And thank you for just coming and listening to our project. Here are our sources, and we wanted to thank you for giving us this time and really being attentive during our presentation.
Great. Thank you.